let's continue our conversation about technology as working professionals. And let's start talking about cameras. As a video producer, this is probably the most important decision you'll ever make. What camera am I going to buy? Or better yet, what camera do I need?
Again, we're talking about purpose here, all right? That should be your primary consideration before the price, before how sexy that camera is in the ad and who's using what for this film and what is the latest and greatest thing that shoots in 6, 8, 12K. All of those things pale in comparison to what you actually need, considering your purpose. What does it need to be able to do for you? And a lot of people will get away with saying, well, I want a future-proof. All right, I need to have the most expensive, latest, greatest camera now because that's going to carry me further into the future. Well, if the purpose that you have can be served by a camera that costs half or less than half of that super high-end camera now, and you're able to make, here's how I think of it, okay? What you need to do is buy the camera that works for you today, with maybe a little bit of the future in mind. All right, so an example of that would be don't get something that's only 1080. Get something that is 4K at least, all right? And at least shoots in 60 frames per second because that is, at least a minor consideration for slow-mo work if you're gonna do any of that, all right? Those are minor future-proofing decisions that you need to make. But what you really wanna do here is get the camera that serves your immediate purpose and then get enough work to outgrow that camera.
Work today for your future tomorrow.
Exactly. So if you're getting so much work that is higher end in nature, that demands that you can go and immediately make more money with by getting a higher end camera, and the one that you've had for the last 2 or 3 years just can't do it anymore, that's when you buy that higher end camera. You've already established the client base, you've already made a decent amount of money with this rig that you currently have, and you just can't do it with that one anymore. That's when you buy the higher end camera.
And so as we start talking about this, Luke already made this point, and I want to kind of start there again. What do you need? What work are you going to be doing? It's tempting, and I don't blame you, for wanting to buy a camera that does it all.
Yeah.
Because I might need that, right? Mm-hmm. I might need the 240 frames per second. I might need the raw output capabilities. But by and large, will you be using it all the time? If you're only doing weddings, you probably don't need the 8K camera with the 120 frame per second slow motion because 120 is way too fast for regular people movement. We don't move that fast. And 8K is just overkill for the amount of footage you're gonna be handling after a wedding. So don't invest $2,000 more for that camera. Buy a camera that's gonna meet your needs. And I get it, it's really hard to do that. It's hard to let go of the dream camera that everyone else around you might be using. And sometimes you have this embarrassment to show up on set with your camera and everyone's like, oh, you make stuff on that? It's like, well, yeah, it does everything I need it to do. It's an amazing little camera. Don't get caught up in these different wars. The sensor war. Is it full frame? Is it micro four thirds? Oh, you do. I only use. Don't get caught up in the brand wars.
Yeah, that's another one.
You use Nikon. Oh, I use Sony. Don't do that. Get a camera that is within your price point and that does what you need. So I would say figure out what you need from a camera, bare minimum. Then go out and start looking at the different brands to see which manufacturer offers those specs for the lowest price.
Yeah, it should be spec driven based on your purpose. If you operate from that space, you're gonna spend the right amount of money, whatever that is, all right? So if it's gonna fill your need and adequately take care of your purpose, and you have determined that by the specs, regardless of manufacturer, regardless of any of the sort of marketing points that are out there, if it's fulfilling that need and it costs X amount of dollars, that's the right amount of money to spend.
Because if you go out and buy a $5,000 camera and you come back and you have no idea what it does, that's gonna fail you at some point because you don't even know how to tap into it. And now it has all these features that you just paid for that you're never going to use because you don't even know what they do. I shoot everything on a sub $2,000 camera. Everything.
Same here.
And it's not even full frame. And there's stuff on television that I've shot on this.
Absolutely.
So, and by this, I mean the camera that's actually filming our labs. So you don't have to spend a lot to do a lot. They're cramming so many features into cameras these days for such a low price point. But there are some things that you shouldn't budge on, and here are those things. Like Luke said earlier, at least 4K. Yeah. That's at minimum the future proofing you should do. I'm gonna guess predictably in the next 5 years, 4K is gonna be the new 1080, and that 1080 is gonna go the way of 720, and then we'll be working with 4K as a new normal. Yeah. You don't wanna invest in something now that now clients are like, oh, I need that in 4K. And you're like, I just bought a wrong camera. 4K at least. 60 frames per second in 1080 minimum.
Which it's hard to find cameras that don't do 60 now. Right. I mean, most of them do.
Yeah, 4K 60, even better, but a little rare.
Yeah.
But becoming more common.
Definitely.
So minimum 4K, minimum 60 frames per second, at a minimum interchangeable lens system.
Yeah.
Don't buy one of those point and shoot cameras or even one of the cheaper, like I know Canon has some still fixed lens cameras where you can't take the lens off and change it for a different lens. Don't waste your time with those. You want to be able to invest in lenses, and that takes us to our next part of this conversation, but you want to be able to invest in lenses and change those out over time. Being stuck with a fixed lens system can be kind of detrimental to the longevity of your camera.
Definitely. I was for years. I shot on a Panasonic HMC 150, which, I got that thing in 2009, I believe. At the time, it was, a camera that you would see in the industry a lot for ENG and corporate work. But it was a fixed lens camera. And, there were many times when I wanted to be able to do specific applications, and I was prevented from doing those things because I didn't have the ability to change out the lenses, and I'd have to go to another DSLR that I had to be able to do that. The glass on your camera can make such a huge difference in terms of the quality of the image that comes out. Far beyond the sensor itself. You put some decent mid-range or high-end glass on the front of a camera that costs, $500, and the image is going to be, mind-blowing compared to a fixed lens camera that costs the same amount of money.
And like our computer conversation where we said don't pay so much for your desktop that you chintz on the monitor.
Yeah.
Don't pay so much for your camera body and then be tempted to go buy that $99 nifty 50 2-point, aperture that's plastic, and you're like, sweet, I got a $100 lens, super awesome, and you throw it on there. That is going to make your awesome camera look like garbage.
Yep, it robs you of the money that you have spent on that camera. The image gets so degraded because of the quality. What's actually getting to the sensor in this wonderful high-end camera is crap compared to if you spent, even a mid-range lens will deliver such, a crisper, more creamy, beautiful image.
So again, you guys might be thinking, okay, tech specs. What are we talking in terms of cost? There's no reason with the non-negotiables that we just talked about for a camera body that you shouldn't be able to find one for under $1,000. Double that to $2,000, you have a whole range of awesome cameras to choose from, especially as mirrorless cameras are increasing in their popularity. For lenses are a crapshoot because you could easily spend $8,000 on a lens.
Yep, absolutely.
Easily. The lens that we're working on right now is a $1,000 Olympus lens for the Panasonic GH5, which is 50% of the total cost of the camera. And that's not unheard of. It's not unheard of. But you shouldn't, that needs to be a consideration when you buy the camera. It's not you buy the camera and go, oh, wait, I need a lens. Don't do that. You're buying the two together. I would also say, and this is my personal recommendation, when you buy cameras from a manufacturer, they often sell them with bundles with the kit lens.
Oh yeah.
Don't buy the kit lens.
Yeah.
Always buy body only, because they're overcharging you for a really junk lens.
They
and
are.
then invest that money into another lens.
And make, again, a purpose-driven decision on the lenses that you buy. A good example of this, and we talked about this in one of the previous tutorials that we did, where you should have a zoom lens and you should have a prime lens, usually. One of each, and if you are going to go with a decent quality for each of them, you're going to be set up for pretty much all situations in a basic video production, creative professional sense. And then diversify for specific purposes beyond that. Here's a great example of not overspending on a camera and making up for it with lenses. Until very recently, I graduated to a Panasonic G9. Okay.
Panasonic.
Yeah. And before that, I was shooting on a Canon T2i. Okay, from 2009. All right, you're talking about a crop sensor, relatively low-end camera that today you could, I don't even know if you could buy one.
Buy them used for like 180 bucks.
Yeah, for almost free. Okay, but I would slap a $1,500 L series 35 prime lens on there. With the f1.2, okay?
Probably look pretty good.
And I could make beautiful video on that thing. So that lens now sits on my G9 because the lens can be, with an adapter of course, carried forward, all right? Even if you switch brands of cameras, it doesn't matter. The lens is something that has a far more longevity than the camera itself does.
Some of the best lenses were made in the 70s.
Yeah, fantastic glass.
Fantastic. And they look amazing today. Lenses don't really go out of style. The technology in lenses doesn't really change. There are some cool things that they're integrating now, but by and large, glass is glass.
Yeah.
Buy nice glass now, and you'll be using it for the entire time you're doing this. So that's our conversation about cameras. Easily under $2,000, you can get a camera body and a lens that's gonna suit your needs really well. But again, don't forget to define what those needs are from the beginning.
Yeah, make your decisions based on purpose. That determines your price. And that's where you really need to start when you're looking at this kind of tech.